I'm Ace.
I'm Max.
I'm Brian.
And this is Deuce Ace, Bro to the Movies. With Max and Brian, baby. Let's get it!
All right.
So, Parasite.
Yes. Alright, so these are two of my best friends. We've known each other years now.
Years.
Day one Deuce and Ace fans. You know, they watch every video, like it. They create alternate accounts just to subscribe. Yeah. So, they said they wanted to watch Parasite, hop on the review, so here we are.
Yeah. Alright, so everyone knows Parasite.
No.
Ask Donald Trump about it. This won Best Picture at the Oscars, Best Director,
Best
and other stuff.
So who knew about Parasite before it won the Oscar? Okay, so I'm definitely the kind of person that hears about the Oscars, the film you didn't know about, and was like, oh, okay, that's probably a good one.
To be fair, I feel like it was like a social media phenomenon before it was I heard about it probably through Twitter and just people posting about it and then I think a lot of people didn't hear about it until it blew up at the Oscars.
When did it come out?
October
2019.
Okay. Yeah, so it has been a while, yeah.
Yeah, I knew about it. I was like, oh, Parasite's gonna be some stupid alien film. I'm not going to see that.
Yeah.
It does sound like a horror or sci-fi horror, from the title alone.
I definitely had, horror vibe from the, people talking about it, or just, the, whatever was around the film, surrounding the film. So that was kind of why I, pushed it off for so long. And then, I forget what, convinced me to go watch it.
It winning Best Picture?
Being considered the best movie in the world.
Oh, no, I know. So it was a podcast where someone was talking about how, it couldn't be overhyped enough. And, maybe it was because there was, a lot of hype, before it, or before the Oscars, or during the Oscars or whatever, that, turned me off of it. But then someone said, you have to go see it. It can't be overhyped enough. And, I think that was, what convinced me.
What convinced me was Max was like, hey, have you seen Parasite? I'm like, no. He's like, hey, you should go see it.
Yeah, I've just been bullying all my friends into watching Parasite. I love it so much. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah. You can say it.
Favorite movie of 2019. I'm putting it out there. It's a masterpiece. I love it.
I'm going to say top 3 of 2019 for me. I think I like Us a little bit better, and Avengers Endgame, just because I'm a nerd, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I think it beat out Endgame.
Ooh. Hot take.
But real close. Love both. But yeah.
I'm not going to give my opinions of it just yet. Keep me on edge. But what's the director?
Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho.
Apologize if that's incorrect. But I love his previous work. Snowpiercer. Any Snowpiercer fans?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Snowpiercer is a bad movie.
Okja fans? Okja?
Oh yeah. Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't finish Okja. But it was good.
Yeah, so I love the work, so I just slept on Parasite, but so glad I watched it because Fire Flame! Fire Flame, couldn't hold that in. It's a Fire Flame film, man.
Yeah.
Alright, so Ace, give us a synopsis, man.
Alright, so Parasite is about a Korean family, the Kim family. Kim?
Are they the Kims? Is that their actual names?
We're going to call them the Kim family because we don't know their Korean names. So the Kim family, and they're lower class, they live in a little sub-basement, and the whole movie is about them trying to get that upward mobility, trying to break through into the middle class and eventually the upper class. And it's basically that. There's schemes, there's thrills, there's kills, spoiler alert, there's chills, there's feels, there's a lot of ills in this movie.
Ills of society.
Hey.
Ills of society. Okay, nice.
But yeah, so it's a very small film. It basically takes place in one house. So the whole Kim family has schemes to make it in the world, and we see how that doesn't always work and the downfalls of upward mobility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parasite.
Without spoilers, it's not. Because the movie's pretty. I'm not even gonna say it's straightforward. This movie has a lot of twists and a lot of turns, and it's an unpredictable film. Based off the trailers, you don't see the comedy aspect, but it's a lot of comedy written into the film as well.
It's hilarious.
Beautiful cinematography, a lot of establishing shots, a lot of pans, and just a great story overall.
Also, did not see any trailers for this. So how did they sell the movie?
I also did not see.
Yeah, it kind of has a horror thriller.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Like
I'm curious what parts I would have taken from that movie to stitch together to make a trailer. Like, that didn't give away anything, but, like, told anything about the movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but...
Eh.
No, it really gives no indication of where it's going.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, before I saw it, like, I think a lot of the buzz I was seeing on Twitter was just people talking, like, alluding to, like, what's in the basement. I was like, oh, there's a secret in this wealthy family's basement. And, like, without spoiling it, it's just like, okay, that sounds like a horror movie, right? That sounds like a sci-fi, like, oh, do they have, like, a secret lab down there or something?
They have a parasite down there?
Yeah, presumably a parasite of some kind.
They hit up the, like, right from the beginning of the film, they hit up the Parasite name of the movie is definitely a metaphor. Because they have, like, they literally show the cockroach. Yeah. They show the guy, like, sweeping the pesticide through the house. And it's like they, like, get rid of the bugs, but then they fumigate themselves in, like, the process. Or, like, they fumigate their own house and their coughing. So it's like, it straight up hits you in, like, the first, I don't know, whatever that is, 5 minutes or whatever,
Yeah, less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. With that, like, Parasite is the family, or, like, the lower classes, the parasite.
The people are the parasites.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe that's, like, a good transition to talk about, like, the main characters, right? Like, the central family is, like, family that's trying to climb out of poverty. Like, you got, the dad who's, he's sitting there, like, scratching his butt. Like, it's implied, I guess, that he used to be a successful businessman. That he was, like,
semi-successful,
that he was a driver for a while. He worked, I think he had a cake shop of some sort. And then he's fallen sort of on hard times. He's unemployed. He's lacking, like, any kind of hope or sense of purpose.
Yeah. They do a lot, a good setup stuff to set up, like, showing that they're in poverty. Like, they do a lot of show, don't tell, of... I don't know, they're, like, literally underground. They show, like, the window shots out of, like, they're underground in an alley. The first scene is setting up them with the pizza box folding, and, like, that whole scene is very much... That might be more tell than show. When they're doing the, like, currency exchange and, like, trying to get the, like, few more dollars out.
Yeah, but that scene also showed their wittiness. Like, this is a smart family, despite their circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, they are conniving. Like, they're gangster with it. So, without going into spoilers, it's they're downtrodden family, but they have a plan.
And I will say, going back to the other characters, like, they show in the background, the mom, there's, like, a medal from, I don't know if it's an Olympic medal, but some sports medal. And then later in the film, they show her doing, like, a perfect, hammer toss, hammer throw.
Shot put?
It's not shot put.
That's the shot put. She's like...
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah, hammer throw sounds right.
Yeah.
Hammer throw.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sports.
Yeah, a perfect. So you're like, oh, she's probably a Olympic caliber athlete, and look how she's living. So anyone can fall upon hard times. That's what I got from that. That it doesn't matter your merits. It doesn't matter what you know, how you are. Anything can happen to you, and anyone could be the Kim family.
Yeah. Right, and with the son of the family, right? Like, we found out, like, pretty early in the movie that, he's like, really good in English. He's, like, all these academic skills. He's taken the college exams, like, several times. And I think it sort of implies that he was able to do really, really well in them, like, good enough that he could even be a high-class tutor, kind of. Mm-hmm. But presumably because of his family's, like, economic situation.
I was going to say, did they say why he didn't go to college?
I don't think they say it explicitly, but I think it's, like, implied that he couldn't afford it. And his sister is, like, a really talented graphic artist, too.
Yeah.
She's, like, an extremely talented graphic artist and designer. And, like, despite all their skills and, like, all their background, like, none of them can get ahead, so...
Yeah, they're just folding pizza boxes for money in their basement.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, didn't you used to fold pizza boxes, Ace?
Yes, I used to work at a pizza shop. I mean, no shame.
No shame.
No.
Yeah, my dad owned a pizza shop, and I worked there with him.
Yes,
So,
me too.
Damn.
I did much more than fold pizza boxes. I also took orders. I took all the orders. I made pizzas. I made subs, ribs. I did everything there, so...
I was the delivery driver, so...
He did nothing.
Oh, man.
Perfect.
Alright, but yeah, and there's not too much, like, as Deuce said, there's not too much that we can say without getting into spoiler territory. So I think we're ready to get some scores.
All right, so we're gonna do the Deuce Ace score or a conglomerate score?
Conglomerate score.
Conglomerate.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. All right.
Three.
Well, this is gonna be like chaos. We all just
What is
shout
this
it.
out of?
Out of 10.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. We go down the line.
Come
Deuce.
on, man. Our thing is just together.
All right,
Oh,
together.
yeah.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
10. There's some 8s.
I didn't hear what anyone said.
We had 3 10s and an 8. I was
Oof.
Ooh. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, can I get some quick math? What's 38 divided by 4?
36, 9.25.
Yeah. Quick math.
Deuce and Ace.
9.25.
Ryan, 9.25 out of 10.
Yeah. Amazing movie. Go see this movie if it's still in theaters when you watch this review.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or get it on
Definitely.
digital, Blu-ray, DVD, all that.
Yeah, definitely pay for this movie.
VHS,
Don't
you know,
stream.
Yeah,
Betamax.
Yeah,
Don't-
definitely pay for this movie.
Yeah, don't stream this movie.
Definitely pay for this movie.
It might be hard to download it with like American subtitles or English subtitles, and you run the risk of
Hey, come on.
watching.
Come on, give Bong Joon-ho some cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
I mean, not that I would know, but there's definitely versions with English subtitles out there.
Fair enough.
But yeah. So we're about to get into the spoilers. But before that, you still there?
What?
Please subscribe at Bro to the Movies.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Wait, our subscribe
bell.
is not at Bro to the Movies, at Deuce and Ace Bro to the Movies on YouTube.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at
Bro.
Bro to the Movies.
And follow these guys on Twitter and Instagram at whatever their handles are.
Actually, please don't follow me. I don't want any of you guys to see what I'm posting.
Okay, don't follow
I
him.
had
Posting
Instagram.
cringe on the TL.
Yeah.
I'm posting too much cringe.
All right.
All right, so I will not put their names there, but
You put mine.
okay, what's your handle?
we don't need to know it now. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess you can say
At
it.
Water Skiing Jolly. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
So let's get into this thing. Spoilers.
Spoilers. Let me break out the notes.
Told you every time.
Let me break out the notes.
Let me also break down the notes.
So I wanted to ask you guys a question. After watching this film, who's the protagonist and who's the antagonist?
Well,
Deep.
I'm gonna go with the protagonist is, and I don't remember any names. The son of the poor family, the Kim family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll agree. Like he's just a protagonist in the sense of, who's the character who we view his point of view from the movie. So I'd say yes, he's the protagonist. Not necessarily the good guy, but definitely protagonist. As for the antagonist, I'd say society itself is the antagonist.
Yeah. The what's the wealthy family's name?
I thought they would have killed.
No,
Parks.
they're the Parks.
Yeah.
Oh, Park. Oh,
Respect
it's
Mr.
still
Park.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really come across as the bad guys
Yeah.
ever. Not until the very end.
Even then, I don't think they're huge spoilers. Even then, I don't
Yeah.
think they're the bad guys. He just wants to save his son over someone he barely knows, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I agree with Ace 100% on this. Like, I do think. Well, I mean, I guess you could see like the Kim family as a whole as like the protagonists because they're the ones you sort of identify with and sort of focus on them, and like I think like at first they lead you to believe maybe the Parks are kind of like an antagonist, and then they subvert that. You think for a little bit that like the housekeeper lady is sort of an antagonist, and then like or the Parks are the antagonist, but really. I do agree. Like in the end, it's like the social structure that they're fighting against that like causes all the disasters in the movie.
So, see, the reason I proposed that question is the reason I gave it an 8 as opposed to a 10. Because in viewing that's what I got. But I'm like, I can't really blame the social structures for what they did in the film. It's like, kind of like, are we to say because of society, what they did, what the old maid did and stuff was justified? No, I can't say that.
Well, personally, I don't. So nothing that the protagonist did was necessarily justified, but all protagonists aren't necessarily good people. Like if you watch any movie where the bad guy is the main character, his actions may not be justified, but that doesn't take away from the movie and what's going on.
Yeah, but we still deem him the bad guy. You just said the bad guy.
Well, he's seen as a bad guy.
It's a wick air spray.
It happens in every video now.
It's timed every 37 minutes. It's a weird timing
so
structure.
random.
We didn't make it. It's
I assume you can change it.
or 18 minutes.
Okay, whatever. But
I guess it's if, like, you as an audience feel if the actions are at all redeemable, is whether you consider them good guy or bad. Protagonist, I think, is much more of, like, the structure of the movie. It's just whose point of view it's from, and the antagonist is whoever's against their ideals or their current plan. In which case, as it sets it up, the Kim family is definitely the protagonist, plural, of the movie, and the Parks are kind of the antagonist, but more they're just like neutral parties.
They're more like a story device. Like you just need someone for the two underclass families to play off of. Like they're just there as a picture of what the wealthy in South Korea look like. Their characters don't really matter.
I think that was an interesting aspect about them, though. Like I think like the Parks, they're not really bad people necessarily. Like in a sense, like they almost want you to set them up to be like, oh, they're these like predatory, like exploitive and like people, and like, but it avoids you like casting like down on them as individuals because they're just like, oh, they're pretty much like they can be kind of nice, they can be kind of condescending. They're like acting how any like typical person in that position of power and wealth might act.
Yeah. Mr. Park builds VR headsets, so
oh yeah,
it can't be bad. Yeah,
a nice little Easter egg you see inside his office.
Yeah, I was trying to look at what that was. Whether there was the Vive or not. Like, did I play that headset?
But I think like with the Park family that they're more naive than anything. When we first meet the mom through a camera's eye, she's sitting there asleep at the table. And I think
or drunk or drugged out.
I mean, we don't see any other references to her being alcohol.
When they had that scene, let's talk about.
Wait, talk. I know what you're gonna say. When they had that scene, she was saying, give me drugs," because earlier when the dad had found the panties, and they assumed it was like some random chicken.
Again, we were assuming you've seen the movie at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about panties and drugs.
Yeah, he was like, oh, he probably found the girl who's on drugs, cocaine, methamphetamine. So they're acting out. He's the driver and she's the girl like, oh, give me drugs. Not because...
Brilliant observation, Ace. You are probably correct.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct. I usually am.
But I mean, she could definitely still have been drunk or on drugs.
Okay, she could have been drunk or on drugs, but I'm assuming... Well, whatever, she's passed out and she's unaware. She's oblivious to her surroundings. And I thought that was like to show... a picture of the whole family. Like they don't know what's going on with the less wealthy, with their service, whatever. They just know their life is what's important, so they're asleep to what goes on in the rest of the world.
So I get that, but then see, this is why I'm saying I'm on edge because like prior to the discovery of respect, that guy, I was like, oh,
great actor, by the way. He killed it.
Yeah, he killed it, man. He should get
literally. He killed people.
I got it. But, prior to the reveal of him, I was on the Kim side. But then I was like, wait a minute, these dudes are, like, the Kim family, they've been manipulative before, but now they're like a-holes. Like, and so, but then when it's discovered that the whole reason that the son is in this issue is because of the ghost of respect. And so it's like, wait a minute, now I see the Parks, like, they're innocent. Before I was in my mind seeing them as the, society, the rich, the, antagonists. But I'm like, wait a minute. They got screwed over time and time again, and it's not the rich person's fault because he just made a modest living of making, VR headsets.
Modest.
And so, but I'm saying, can I blame him or fault him for that? I don't know what opportunity, presented itself in life. And so now their whole family, my man is having seizures and blacking out because of nothing that they did.
Yeah, Mr. Park is dead.
Huh? Oh well, yeah.
They murdered him.
He got murdered. I'm saying like, so it's like, no, I get it, but then I can't take that. I can't take that mental step to like start blaming them and blaming society in the sense of because they have,
But I don't think we're blaming society in the sense that they have. That's not the society that we're blaming. The society that we're blaming is where the poor are fighting against each other and stepping on each other's backs to go up. Not because of anything that the wealthy done. That's just a system in place. You said that they were conniving and stuff, but they weren't evil. They got 2 people fired, and I think who I felt worse for in the whole movie was the original driver for Mr. Park. He did nothing. He's just a nice driver. He's doing his job. And because they want more, they're going to get him fired. And they even mentioned it. They're like, oh, he probably found another job, right? He's a good driver. No, he probably didn't find another job. Jobs are just growing on trees.
They did that in the movie was really good because there was the timing of like them talking about how they they were like trying to guess what like all the people that they'd kicked out of the jobs. They went on to find new jobs, and then like immediately after that, the past housekeeper like knocks and like there's the whole scene where like clearly she didn't, and she needed this job, and is now off, and she's got bruises and scrapes all over her face because she's probably been in the like got kicked right back down into the alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's not like the wealthy society is wrong or the bad guy society itself. I mean, because the poor people, they're all bad guys, I'd say, except for maybe the Parks.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's because of how they displace everyone else. I can't feel sorry for them because now, even without wealth, they're just as evil as the people who are, stumping out on them.
But I think we're supposed to see that no one gets that wealth without stumping on anyone else. You don't get. I believe me and Deuce were talking about this the other day about billionaires. Yeah, so you don't become a billionaire. You don't get to that level of wealth without stomping on the backs of other people. There is no ethical way to amass that amount of money. What are you looking at? Where you don't
mental time.
where you don't have to worry about your needs forever without some shady business practices or some shady humanitarian practices. Your boomer senses are going on.
I'm older than everyone here, by the way.
Clearly.
No, but I just had a pain. It felt like Max was going to say something.
I didn't know you had psychic powers. This is another reason I subscribe to Deuce Ace. There's always more superpowers. It's
Paranormal activity.
Exactly. Like a parasite in the brain. No, but like, but off of what Aaron said. I mean,
stop doxing me.
I said, what Ace said. Excuse me. Right, yeah, so it's like, I think the movie does, like, take care to explicitly show that the Parks are like, they're like pretty much normal people. They're not like inhuman monsters, right? They're like what a regular person with that kind of wealth and power like might do in this situation. But they also take like many scenes, I would say, to like show how they don't really see the Kim family as human, and they sort of just like expect them to contribute their time, their energy, even like their socialization, like just to like chat with them. They're like sort of use them in some ways, and like this recurring theme of like Mr. Park having a problem with Mr. Kim's smell, right? Like he's always like holding his nose. He's just like you can see he's like disgusted by him. He's always talking about like how he can't cross the line. Like that's the important thing. He's like, oh, like he's supposed to serve me. He's supposed to do what I want, dress up for my kid's birthday party. I find him like disgusting, and if he ever says something that like I don't agree with, I can fire him anytime and replace him. You know, so it's like, and it's like not even saying that they're especially bad people. It's just like he has that power position over the Kim family. So like if they do something he doesn't like, he's paying them, then, or like he can get them to work extra hours, or he could just like, I mean, you see that's what they do with all their old like the old housekeeper, the old driver. They just like let them go at the first sign of anything that they disagree with.
Yeah, the meta like points of the movie with wealth and stuff is obviously it's a whole conversation. I personally like the reason I gave it a 10 was because of the like film structure, so the camera stuff, and like obviously the biggest one is metaphor, and like. You touched on it. They explicitly say it a ton of times in the movie.
Yeah, don't cross the line.
Well, yeah,
like
don't cross the line.
And when he gets this stone, right? Like when
calls it a metaphor.
Yeah, Mr.
That's so metaphorical.
Son, like his friend who like seems to be a little bit better off comes back from college and brings him this stone, which is supposed to be, I guess, like a sort of a good luck charm to help them gain wealth or fortune in some way. And literally, like in that opening scene, like Mr. Kim's son holds up the stone. He's like, "It's so metaphorical."
Yeah, they're kind of beating you over the head with it.
Yeah. So, oh my god,
literally,
I missed that. Oh,
it's called foreshadowing.
So there's a namesake metaphor of the film, which is Parasite, which like that starts from the cockroach and starts from them being like fumigated for it, and then like the Kim family is making a bunch of, like, they hold their nose at the smell of the place that they're in. They do it at the guy urinating, who's, like...
Men.
No, Men was the friend who gave him the stone.
Awkward.
Had bad subtitles in it,
I hope it wasn't being. Maybe you did. I don't know.
But, yeah. So they and like the insects, they want to get rid of the insects and stuff that are there, and then the Park family holds their nose and tries to flush out like the Kim family, or I don't know, the holding their nose to the like because you're disgusted by the step under you. Happens a lot in the film,
and it's a chain, right? Like
yeah,
the hierarchy. It goes all the way from the stink bug itself, all the way up to the
right, stink bug,
That's like a cockroach. There's something about cockroaches in the movie, though.
They were like, "Oh, you're scurry like a cockroach."
Yeah, he was afraid like the cockroach. Yeah.
Which did happen. He hid under a table for a whole night.
Yeah, everything is foreshadowed too. Not just like I feel like exactly what you're saying. Like everything is some symbolic meaning, and almost every movie, like because I've seen the movie now twice. That's how big of a diehard Parasite fan I am. Like watching it the second time, like I noticed knowing what was going to come. Like every big moment was foreshadowed in like either a subtle way or like a way that seems really obvious in retrospect. Like in the end scene with the when the respect guy comes out of the basement with a knife. Right before that happens, there's a guy with a tomahawk chopping wood really aggressively at the park, like at the garden party that they have set up.
Yeah, I made this note coming right out of it that the sound design is always one of my favorite things in movies, and man, did they just kill it. The sound, like there are pairs of sounds throughout the whole movie, and they're all like they're not related, but like the subtext under them is related, and the respect guy banging his head against the button is the exact same sound as the mom opening the Kim mother opening the tables, and it like they keep flashing back almost between that, and I don't really know what that's comparing between the two, but it just sets up this really eerie tone throughout all of it.
I think what it could possibly comparing is just shows their servitude. The respect guy, he's banging on the lights to light up the hallway for Mr. Park. The mom, she's banging on the tables because she has to come in and set up the tables by herself for this garden party. So it shows, even if you're not directly working for Mr. Park, we should learn the respect guy's name. We should put some respect on his name. I'm sorry. But the respect guy, he's serving the Kims. Not for money, not for, I mean, I guess technically he does live off of them, but just because he thinks this is the right thing to do. So, you're always serving someone. Even the Kims, like, we don't see it, but they're serving someone at some point, most likely. Assuming they're not the richest family in Asia.
The Kims of the Parks.
The Parks, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, not even on deep levels. I think, like, just, what's his name, Bong Joon Ho. Like, the scene where he checks her post. And then, like, you know, later she checks his post to see if he's lying. It's just there's so much, you know, so many callbacks, and it's like a very well directed, very well scripted film.
My favorite callback in the entire movie is the fumigation happens really early, and then the deluge, the flooding happens, and those are obviously exact parallels with flushing out. One's flushing out the bugs, the other's flushing out the lower class. But they talk about the window in the same exact way both times, discussing whether to close it.
Did you close it?
And like they're debating whether to close it in the like in the first scene with the fumigation, but in the end it's like an imperative that they have to close it because they're the ones being like fumigated. So they have a choice of whether to like let the fumigation gases in and cleanse them of the bugs, but then when they don't have a choice and the flood is like forcing them out of the house, it's like an imperative that they have to close the window. They lose that choice.
Yeah. That's a great analysis.
That's my favorite thing about like that moment in the movie. I caught on when they closed it, when they're like they have to close the window to save their life, and I was like, man, that is so good.
Yeah, as the son would say, it's so metaphorical.
Yeah, I don't know why the fumigation scene like really early on set a tone for me, but like that there's something that I knew that was going to come back. So I think I made a mental note of that, and then like anything that had to do with the the literal parasite or bug comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, the window. I mean, and the window like is just like some of these like really subtle touches Bong Joon-ho puts in there, like with the cinematography, right? Like the window in the sub basement where they live is like really kind of grimy and dirty. Like it's like a skewed perspective, and you see the camera like angle going from their perspective with this kind of like gritty dirty view of the world, and then you get all these shots out of this beautiful, like, full wall-length window in the Park's house, and just this, like, glistening, perfectly sparkling, clean window looking out in this sunny yard. It's like, oh, they're seeing things, obviously, from a completely different perspective, just like we're seeing through the camera.
It's also nearly, like, the same ratio that they portray in the film, like, on camera. The tiny window, like, that's scummy, is kind of blown up to the same perspective as the wall-to-wall window in all of the shots. So, like, yeah, it's the same, they're, like, in the same situation, but one is, like, perceived as vastly better.
Man, Deuce and Ace just got replaced. I was gonna turn to the cameraman now. Jeez Louise.
I guess I love the wealth, like, comparisons and that meta, but the, like, digging into the metaphor, like, just looping and looping of that stuff that they, like, the actual, I don't know, what is that, scripting or direct or whatever that falls under, that stuff.
Yeah, and
that makes a movie for me.
Yeah, and this movie is just, like, dripping with subtext. Like, we could pick apart each drip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the drip. Like, you don't got to bring it up. He's hating on the fit.
Drip.
Drip.
Weird. Like, we could pick apart each and every scene, and we could find something. I mean, just thinking, there's staircases all the time. To me, the staircase symbolizes every time they're coming up the stairs, they're leaving the sub-basement, or they're leaving wherever they live under the dry cleaners, they're actively going towards a better place, what they perceive as a better place. They're going towards the wealth, but something happens, it keeps dragging them back down the stairs. Literally, they kick the original housekeeper down the stairs, and she dies down to the sub-basement. At the end of the movie, after we're hearing the narration, and Mr. Kim is telling us, or I guess
he's writing the letter.
Yeah, he's writing the letter off the Morse code. We see one of the last scenes is Mr. Kim going, like, not even just down the sub-basement stairs, but a continuous journey down the stairs, down the main stairs, down the stairs to get back to the house, down the stairs into the sub-basement, and he's at his lowest point there. He has basically become the respect guy at this point. He's a literal parasite because he's feeding off of his family now.
Then the last... one of the last, like, lines of the film is, I can't wait for when he's, like, responding back, I can't wait for the day where you can just come up the stairs.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
I think it's not that... Because, I mean, like, literally, if he comes up the stairs, he's going to get arrested at some point. It's a metaphor. I can't wait for the day when I've made enough, I can drag you out of destitution.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's totally true. It's like a constant metaphor of, like, height, right? It's like the rich people live up in the hills, they live in the sub-basement. Yeah. They, like, take that journey and finally, like, get that access up the stairs into the home of this wealthy family. And then when everything goes downhill with their conflict with the housekeeper and the flood starts coming, right? Yeah. Then they're traveling all the way. It's just the camera's, like, panning down this, like, long journey, a descent back into their basement, and it's flooded, and there's literal, like, sewage water destroying everything they own. It's just like they make it all the way up and then they plummet down just as fast as they came up.
So one of the other, like, physical representations, and this is full credit to Reddit for that tip, but somewhere...
Shout out to Reddit. We got Deuce and Ace, is it Deuce and Ace or is your own personal?
You have a subreddit?
We don't have a subreddit.
Okay,
we have a Deuce and Ace account, and I post some Deuce and Ace stuff. I'm mainly on, like, the Kanye West or the NBA subreddit.
Nice.
So you can see me commenting there.
Yeah, you know, subscribe to Deuce and Ace. Follow the subreddit or the Reddit, Twitter, Instagram.
Deuce doesn't know how Reddit works. It's okay.
r/Deuce and Ace coming.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Somewhere was posted, one of the reasons, like, I wanted to go watch it was because someone said anytime that a character crosses a line, they cross a literal line in the cinematograph, like, shown by some foreground object that they have to physically walk across. I'm unclear on this, and I, like, because of the Reddit post, I was, like, watching for the movie, and I didn't really... I didn't really understand the crossing the line stuff. I get the, like, general cross the line, but did anybody else?
Personally, I think it calls back to what Mr. Park was saying. He's a good man. He always comes up to the line, but he never crosses the line. He never crosses the line of wealth. He never gets out from the lower class. They always come close, but something happens that pushes them back. And, I mean, this could be a detriment to Mr. Park. He likes that about him. He likes that he's not as good as me. He's never going to make it to my level. He knows his place.
But there's also, like, not doing anything, like, wrong, I guess. Or not,
Yeah, what he would perceive as wrong.
Yeah, like, crossing his line, his
His
Yeah, that's
personal
how I read
So,
it.
like, were there spots in the movie where like they like other characters explicitly cross the line relative to like the parks, like morals or something? I guess.
I would say, I mean, I'd have to rewatch the movie, but a
Yeah.
lot of the scenes with the son, Kevin, I mean, he's, like, crossing the line with the daughter. He's starting a romantic relationship. Like, I have to see if they're physically crossing, as you said, the foreground object to make a line, but
Yeah.
I assume they would be in that point.
No, but that's a good one. Yeah.
Also, what is the age of consent in South Korea? Because
That was weird.
she's a high school student, and everyone is grooming her, talking about, oh, I'm going to wait to university.
Yeah.
But Kevin
But they
just
said
goes...
she's a sophomore, so I'm saying about 15 or so.
But is that the age of consent in South
I
Korea?
don't know the age of consent.
Probably.
Kind of problematic.
That was a little weird. Yeah, we don't know how old the son is.
I guess actually all the times that they each family member like adds in their own like replaces one of them. Oh, that's crossing a line.
Yeah.
Each step, the peach, fuzz.
Yeah, they
like-
basically tried to murder her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like send her into anaphylactic shock,
Yeah.
and then the panties displacement.
Yeah.
How does the daughter get hired? No, she just gets recommended.
Yeah,
just-
by,
they created-
by Kevin, right?
But then she raises her rate by like pretending,
Oh yeah.
Art
pretending to
therapy.
know that
Yeah.
Dasong, the son of the Park family, is like has some like traumatic incident.
But how did she? Because she said when he was in first grade, and that's when it happened though.
I assumed that like when she was up there talking to him that he just told her like because they seemed to, like they were actually like close, they were friends. He was probably just like, oh, I saw a ghost in first grade.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm assuming, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's why they killed the daughter at the end because she was the only one. I don't know if it's a metaphor or I'm just reaching, but she's the only one who didn't step on someone else to get her position. And she's the only one who's seen at home in the rich people's house. They said it when she's sitting in the bathtub drinking the fancy water, like, oh, you seem like you were born to be here. So, like, no, you're not born to be here. We're going to kill you because you're lower class scum. And even though you are just as good as these other people, you're not allowed to be here.
So is that why like Kevin almost gets killed? Because he didn't step on anyone to get his position, did he? He got like
No, yeah.
permission, but he didn't quite belong there. So he's like killed by the metaphor rock,
Yeah.
but not actually killed.
Yeah.
Well,
And I don't know. That's a weird.
I mean, but see, that's also why I gave it an 8
Mm-hmm.
because he should have been dead. Like the way he threw the rock on his head, there's no way he shouldn't have lived.
Well, I will preface this by saying I saw.
Preface.
I will preface this by saying that I saw some people talking about this on Reddit, and they were saying that there's a scene where he's trying to sink the rock, and the rock floats. It shows the rock's not as dense. I don't know the
Interesting.
like the factuality of this, if that's a metaphor or not. Like, oh, it's not as dense as you would think a rock like that should be. So maybe that's why he doesn't die from the rock.
I saw his neck do.
You didn't see his neck do.
Dog, when he throws the
did not
rock,
look good.
his neck looked like it snapped.
Definitely the pool of blood.
Yeah, you saw the
underneath.
pool of. I'm just saying, it was just like this. Like, he was just
My
wrestling.
whole thing
Well,
is
you
like
can go
you
into
got
a
all
coma
these
after.
metaphors, all this deep, deep thought provoking stuff, and then you have something like that. It took me out. Like it literally took me out when he's having brain surgery. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I guess-
there's no way he should be alive.
To your credit, I was, and I said this also like right after watching. I was kind of against the whole post-narration thing, though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
having a narrative wrap up at the end, kind of like it didn't spoil it for me. It was kind of like a little thing, like okay, all right, fine. I don't think that added too much to the movie. I also don't think it took away from the craziness in the
Oh no,
for the rest. But that's why it wasn't my favorite the way that they ended. I don't like that he survived. Like I think when he woke up in the hospital, I too was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Like brain surgery is gonna fix your being caved in skull. Sure. All right.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was caved in or just.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
coming
even
up.
before
I
he
know.
caved in, though, he straight up choked him.
Yeah,
Straight up-
you're not gonna die from being choked for a little bit.
all that blood loss.
yeah.
Because even-
When they showed the girlfriend carrying him on the back, so she probably gave him some on-site treatment. She stopped the blood flow a little bit because
Yeah,
blood's not flowing out of his head while she's
Yeah.
carrying
No,
him.
but that took me out of the scene too. Again, I enjoyed the film, but it's just the ending was like, and like you said,
Yeah.
that narration. Because once I had to
How did you rewind it, Deuce?
I had to mentally rewind it and be like, wait a minute, why is he on her back? Isn't he dead? and then just that taking me out of that serious of a scene. Like, you can take me out of a scene with when she was like, "What's Ramdan?" It's like, ha ha ha, ramen and udon. So that's comedy. But then, like,
I don't think this was supposed to be seen as comedy, though.
Exactly, it's suspending disbelief. I mean, again,
I agree to disagree, but I just got one point. Did you really give Parasite the same score you gave Bad Boys for Life? Like, we talk about this a lot on this channel. Deuce's scores are all over the place. He never gives anything below a 5 except for a movie he hates. And every other one, it's a 7, it's an 8. Like,
I respect.
Like, come on, man. So Bad Boys for Life was just as an enjoyable movie as this for you.
Yes, for different reasons.
I'm out.
For different reasons.
I'm outta here.
I'm not saying I'm not rating it on, you know, script. I'm not rating it solely on direction. I'm rating it on how I enjoyed the film.
It was a terrible movie. How did you enjoy the film?
I'm saying nostalgia weighs in. You know,
that's it.
Lame, corny jokes. Like, those jokes were hilarious to me. Yes. So I enjoyed those equally. I'm not saying they're equal films.
Yeah.
But my review, my rating, my feeling after watching said film is equal.
So I have my own likes that where I rank stuff, and like the weird ones for me that are like Deadpool 2, Coco, and Parasite are all in the same league for me because of one criteria. And that is a scene in the movie that made me feel so extreme of the reaction they're trying to get out of me. And so, like, Deadpool 2 has one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. And I saw that in the theater and couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, which scene?
It's the parachuting scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the funniest movie I've seen I think I've saw in that
Rob
scene.
Delaney, the dude in the khakis.
I couldn't stop laughing. But so I went home and I was like, you know what? That nailed it.
Yeah.
That nailed comedy for me. They couldn't have done that better. Coco? I cried at Coco like a at the end.
Hey, language, family friendly shit.
You know,
Like
I'm not
a
to believe it.
And, like, yeah, so that nailed, I don't know, like, it got the reaction out of me. The suspense scene of Parasite with them hiding under the table, really that whole thing.
Oh my god.
I literally the edge of my seat. And so I will rank that up there with, like, one of the best movies I had seen of the year, or, like, really high, because it nailed the reaction from me. I couldn't have been more tense. I was, like, rocking, edge of my seat. It nailed suspense in that, yeah.
Just to tie in on that scene, that was the creepiest. The tenseness was there, but the interactions between the parks, that was just weird.
And they're just watching their son while they're
that was
having
the most
sex.
disturbing. I was like, man, did this turn into softcore porn? Like, what am I watching?
That's, like, classic, like, a real awkward scene to watch with your, like, best friends or family.
Or wife. It was way before.
Oh,
my wife.
yeah.
I'll go with your wife.
I'm saying it wasn't like romantic. It wasn't sexy. It was just
Like, hey,
was weird.
we should try that.
It almost seemed like they were like,
who's we?
I missed that. What? Aaron! This man just said that video. Family friendly.
yeah, Brian, don't say the B word. That's inappropriate.
But sleep with your brother.
So Parasite.
Yeah, we've been all over the place. We talk about metaphors, but I think all in all we can all agree there's just an great to amazing movie.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yes.
So many little details.
Yeah.
So many, like, perfectly, like, symbolic. Like, the cinematography is incredible. The acting, actually, is, like...
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about the acting. Like, pretty much every single character in that movie is, like, memorable. Has, like, a strong personality. And there's, like, all these subtle expressions they give when they're lying. And, like, they're even, like, acting as actors when they're, like, playing this cameraman kind of role.
Especially
it's incredible, yeah.
the sister. Like, she
Yeah,
does,
so
you know, a whole lot. I have some Korean friends, so I was picking up with different words, but I'm serious.
Her Anyan Hasa.
Songsening,
Ramdan.
I don't know if that's a Korean word, but what I liked is just, you know, I appreciate diversity when there's not an agenda, you know, and this one, clearly we're hearing Korean words, but you also hear how she's mocking the North Korean, you know, commentators, and there's just stuff in there that you just see that probably we didn't even catch on to, but I appreciate that was there for those who do.
Yeah. I had an outside question, like going outside of the movie again. Why do you think this was the film that broke the, like, foreign film to win Best Movie Oscar? Like, Why was this the foreign film?
The first ever,
that,
this was the first
ever film to win
non-American
best
movie to win Best Picture.
Best Director has been won by a foreign film director before,
Oh,
but
there's definitely been like a UK film that's won Best Picture, right?
I don't think so.
No, this was
I
the
don't think
first
so.
one.
Yeah, from any other country.
Well, I would say, and this is not taken away from Parasite, but there were comparisons between Parasite and The Joker.
Trash movie.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
I can't stand Joker.
all right.
The Joker review. I have some thoughts.
Strong feelings.
But I think it had a push from that conversation of looking at society through the eyes of either a deranged clown prince of crime or through, the Korean subculture. So I think because it had a push to be into, thrown into the zeitgeist where it wouldn't have.
I'll say, contrasting Joker, it's the reason I think it broke through a lot was because it's so grounded. There's no paranormal, there's no, superhero, there's no it's families the whole way through. And the name of the movie is Parasite. You almost want to think like Alien when you're, looking at the movie poster and stuff, but it doesn't. It doesn't even touch anywhere near that. It's just a, straight in the world, a bizarre film, some bizarre scenarios, but it stays really grounded and definitely touches on those, universal, themes.
And I think not only that, but it's the world we live in now, too.
Yeah.
A lot of people are becoming more socially aware. There's a lot of talk about class solidarity. There's a lot of, talk about these kind of subjects. Bernie Sanders winning 3 primaries in a row. It's crazy.
Definitely caved in the right
Can
time.
I do my Bernie Sanders impression?
Yes,
It's me, Bernie Sanders. And I ask now that no matter what the Russians are doing, that you vote for me. We have a grassroots campaign, and I'm Bernie Sanders.
Parasite was my favorite film of 2019. Excellent movie.
Yes, all these things. So a lot of people are becoming more acutely aware.
Woke.
Yes.
Woke.
A lot of people are more woke to some of the struggles that no one ever thought about before. So a movie like this, it touches the zeitgeist, and it touches people. They're like, man, I'm not that different from the Kims. I'm not that different from the Respect guy. Not me personally.
I am exactly like the Respect guy.
Wants to be the
I
Respect
sit in
guy.
my basement every day and I bang against the...
I have a picture of Jeff Bezos on my wall.
But yeah, or even Elon Musk said this was his favorite film of last year. So he sees himself in the parks most likely. So anyone can see themselves in some of these characters, and I think that's why it really touches the hearts of a lot of the people.
Yeah.
Maybe even the Academy, or they just like, oh, it's popular, let's
Yeah,
go
it's
for it.
interesting. I saw in an interview, Bong Joon-ho said, I specifically made this, to comment on, society in South Korea, in Seoul, and, the richest neighborhoods in Seoul, and how they, treat the people, with the rent situations in the poor neighborhood. He meant it to be, a very, Seoul-specific, Korean movie, but I guess, his take on it, I think he said something along the lines of, yeah, I mean, I guess, inequality is, a global problem, everywhere in the developed world.
There was something
And
in that
he
conversation.
didn't even expect
He didn't expect it to translate.
It to
How
be so relatable for everyone.
depressing is that if you're him and you're like, oh, everyone is like that.
It's this bad, everywhere.
It's America, it's Russia, it's China. Oh, we're all screwed.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
Dope analysis.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk for days, we can talk for hours. This review's getting kind of long. So,
Nah, watch it, subscribe it, rewatch it.
I mean, if you're already at this point, you've already watched it.
Boost the view count, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, get the bots in there, please.
No, we want to be legit.
I'm trying to get rich. I'm trying to do the parks.
Are you trying to get rich?
I'm trying to get rich.
But a billionaire shouldn't exist.
I didn't say I'm trying to be a billionaire. I said I'm trying to get rich. I'm trying to ethically, and not rich that I never have to
Ethically with
Using
bots,
robots?
I mean, I don't think that's unethical.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think it's because it doesn't hurt anyone in that sense. Maybe YouTube gives us an extra $1 that we shouldn't get.
That's called stealing. Ethics.
Stealing
101.
from the rich and giving to the poor / middle class.
If you want to see a Deuce and Ace with Max and Brian talk about politics and socio-economic issues,
keep watching.
Leave what is it?
a comment,
a P in the chat?
what?
The F in the chat?
F in the chat.
That's not what it's for, dude.
That's if you want this channel to die.
Press F to pay respect.
No F's in the chat.
Okay, yeah, we're kind of we're done.
So yes, round of applause, Max and Brian.
Alright, round of applause for Deuce and Ace.
Round of applause for Deuce and Ace.
Making dope videos.
Yeah, if you want to,
Okay, not every week, but any week.
if you want to be on a review, just hit us up in the comments. Hit us up in the DMs. Like, hey, I like what you do. Let me get in there.
I like what you deuce.
And I'm going to ace it. So just also preferably live in the DMV metro area.
Or Philly. We may make the 2-hour drive to Philly for some cheesesteaks, so.
Or New York. I mean, or
New York's 4 hours.
Or South Korea.
Yeah, if you find us out, yeah.
Pay for it. So.
I'll review whatever you want.
Except,
Bong Joon Ho, come on, Deuce Ace.
I'm talking to you.
All right. Any more final thoughts?
Fantastic movie.
Movie of the year for me.
Amazing movie.
Great movie.
10 out of 10.
Great movie.
9.25.
9.25 out of 10.
All I can say, respect.
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 I'm Deuce.
I'm Ace.
I'm Max.
I'm Brian.
And this has been Deuce and Ace, Bro to the Movies. Out. Hey, Deuce and Ace here. Thanks again for sticking around for the whole video.
We're so glad you did. We hope you enjoyed the movie reviews, the trailer reactions, the funny bros, and the quality content. If you do, be sure to subscribe, check out these videos, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bro to the Movies.
Deuce and Ace.